I'll let you introduce our other guests.
Yeah.
And thanks again for being here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to welcome some people and have them stand up here because I'm all about throwing them flowers, right? And celebrating the amazing actors because it took 30 actors in 30 locations, you know, so it was a huge endeavor. But the first person I want to introduce played the role of Andrea. Andrea. And that is Allison Ewing. So come on up, give her a huge applause. The second person I saw in the crowd, which I believe is still here, yes, is me, Deborah. Deborah played the role of Wei Ling. Come on up. And the next person I want to include on this is one of the stars of the show. He has such a huge fan following. His name is John Tam, and he plays Jimmy. And then the last person who I didn't realize was here that surprised me actually worked on the crew, and it was actually one of the students who worked on it and was a big supporter of our projects. His name is Chedu, and he worked as a grip. So Chedu, come on up. Chedu, yeah. So here you go.
All right. Wonderful to have you all here. I was blown away by the film, like the testimonials, the poetry, the cinematography, the performances, the way you covered all the locations around Oakland, even Lake Merritt, behind the Fairyland sign. I love that little spot. What was it like to film this in all these locations? You know, could you give us a little bit of insight? We could go around what it was like to be there, you know, during the production. You can share any battle stories or pleasant surprises.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let them speak to it because they were all part of different scenes. But yeah, I mean, like each chapter, right? That's how it's structured, right? It's each neighborhood, major neighborhood. A lot of people don't realize that, you know, Oakland is racially segregated like most cities are, right? And so you have Funktown, which is basically from the late into about the 20s, which was the Asian American section, mostly Chinese in particular. Portion of the film with those characters, and then you have Fruitvale, right, which is the Latino community, and then you have Deep East Oakland, which we call the Shady 80s. That's actually where I used to work at Youth Uprising, which is a nonprofit. So we filmed all on locations with permits. Like I said, you know, it was about, I think, around 30 locations, 30 different actors or more, including the extras. So it was just, yeah, a huge endeavor. And, you know, when filming in Oakland, you know, an important kind of little tidbit of information is that, you know, if you just hire the police department to protect your crew, you actually become more of a target, actually. And so we had a closed social media set. Nobody was allowed to post any photos during the actual production of the film because people will follow you on social media and they'll rob your crew. We've actually had a lot of colleagues actually that were robbed actually during their productions. And so we decided to work with community members who are like elders of the community, kind of had relationships with some of the people in the neighborhood. So when they would scout us, they would say, oh, I know so-and-so's mother or auntie, you know, it's fine, you know, they just were curious about what was going on. So, but there were other more documentary aspects of it that we dispatched. A lot of the students, like Chedu, actually went out with one of our cinematographers, and you know, they were out on their own and they were kind of just doing it guerrilla style. So a lot of the projects that we do are like that. I don't know if any of you have some interesting stories about the locations that we filmed at,
Or just anything you want to share about being part of the movie.
Yeah, here, I'll pass it to John.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I mean, I was actually not supposed to be the person playing Jimmy. There was another guy that who was actually supposed to play him, but and he was actually closer in age to the actual character, right? But then last minute, you know, he kind of flaked on it, so so they ended up calling me, and it kind of almost like a typecast thing because, you know, I'm in the real estate finance business, and this guy's supposed to be like an unemployed real estate agent or something. You know what? I mean, you know, I'm not really acting. I'm just being myself. You know, everybody who saw the film said, "Hey, man, you're not acting, are you?" Yeah, but it was a wonderful experience. You know, I'm not an experienced actor, although I had a lot of extra roles in, you know, Hollywood movies where they pay you $140 and you're just like the guy that's walking around in wardrobe and makeup, and it's fun. But this is like actually my first speaking part.
Wow.
That's good.
Well, I was very happy to represent the Asian community and able to speak my, well, it's actually not my native language, but I am Cantonese, and my father did teach me a little bit of Cantonese when I grew up, and I just faked the rest. But I think I did a pretty good job because none of my Cantonese friends said anything about my Cantonese being lousy. Shui pei.
Well, funny story, something I want to add about that is because, you know, the script was actually in English, right? You know, and it wasn't written in Chinese, but there were certain parts where I had to speak to my mother in Chinese. And I actually didn't know the words for, you know, I had like a 5th grade vocabulary, so I had to ask like other people, like, how do you say this?
I'll answer that actually. So, you know, what's interesting about that is, you know, I don't speak Cantonese, right? So I didn't write the scene in Cantonese. But what was amazing about this was that, as John had mentioned, right, that, you know, he was familiar with the real estate and, you know, the disparity, right, and displacement and things like that. And so he fit really well for the role. And then Deborah, she's being very modest, but, you know, she's a translator. And she does this professionally, so she was helping translate the script, provide the subtitles, right? So it was an amazing linguistic ability that she had, and that was just a blessing from the skies, right? So they say when the film gods bless you, right? And so that was definitely a blessing to have Deborah join the team, and she would, you know, in her audition, she told me that she had acted in San Francisco, right, with some troops, but never got an opportunity to really play a lead role in a feature film. And, you know, that was really what this project was about, was advancing people of color, right, giving them lead roles, involving them in the production, involving young people from the inner city who live in these neighborhoods to be able to influence the story. And so our producers weren't able to make it. We're 2 young men that actually grew up on International Boulevard and were sharing their stories. So it was a wonderful sense of community building, right, bringing some different cultures together. But sorry, I didn't want to take your time.
Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I was playing on stage in San Francisco during my younger age, and the funny thing about it, when I was playing my roles, I was still a 60-year-old old woman. I had to put a pillow here in front to add in the fat, because in those days, you know, old ladies had fat bellies. But, you know, the Chinese community knows me, you know, in Mandarin. I did a lot of Mandarin stage plays.
Wow.
So thank you for giving me this opportunity and putting the Asian community into E14.
What am I saying? Just
Do you want to share anything about working on the film, challenges, pleasant surprises, anything people would appreciate hearing?
Yeah, I love being one of the only white people in the movie. And it was one of the very first features that I had done when I started acting again after a couple decades, and so I was very new to it, but ever since then too, like, I really do flock to important storytelling and love to be one of the minority for a change, and so I love what he's doing in the world, not just with his filmmaking, but in the stories that he's telling. And so, you know, it was rough to watch those Karen moments of, you know, she thinks she's doing good in the world, and then it's like, oh, geez, your limitations are so big. But I love that he was bringing that to the forefront, and it was just a special movie, and I've seen it, you know, and I was just saying, like, when you see a movie, you wonder, like, what else am I going to find? And each time I watch it, and it's been a while, I just enjoyed it so much. So it's great to be able to take yourself out. I don't love watching myself, but to be able to take myself out of it and just enjoy all of the, like, the long scenes in between the action and all of the city being shown. It's just a really cool, and the docu-fiction stuff is great. It's a fun movie, and I'm really happy to be a part of it.
Hey everyone,
Hey,
so my name is Chedu, and like Rafael said, I came to surprise him tonight. Today. yeah, I was one of the crew members. I was the grip, and yeah, I can say, I mean, just from my opinion, yeah, it was definitely a challenge. Like Rafael said, yeah, we shot this during the winter, so it would rain. On random days when we would start filming, it would rain, and we had to make sure that his equipment would stay safe. And yeah, like Rafael said, yeah, unfortunately, Oakland people that filmed in Oakland, they would have their stuff stolen. So we had to, yeah, we hired community members. I remember I got to talk to the main bodyguard. His name was Yapeu. Just hear some stories about his experience. And I remember actually one scene, the scene where Augustine, he gets attacked. So I still remember, I don't know if you...
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, yeah, so after we was done, after we finished that whole scene, I remember, I think a homeless woman popped out of nowhere and threw a bottle.
Oh, nice. Never sound guy.
Yeah, threw a bottle. And Raphael's like, okay, grab your stuff, we gotta get out of here right now. and I remember one of our crew members, for those that remember T-Money in the movie.
So good.
Yeah. He was also part of the crew, and he was staring her down. and Raphael's trying to grab him. And yeah, luckily we're all safe. Nothing happened. Nothing major happened. I think once we got back, we found out that it was that she was just playing.
No.
She wanted to be in a movie.
But yeah, like I said, it was a challenge. But I was glad to be a part of it.
Thank you.
The guy was washing his car.
Yeah.
You know, there was a scene in front of the house where the guy was washing his car. Okay, now that guy was not actually supposed to be in the movie, but since he was washing the car.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a release.
Yeah, we had to get him signed a release. I mean, there was a lot to get paid.
It was like a perfect shot, like under the hose.
Well, you know, the director of photography, you know, and we worked on a lot of projects together, and so he was like, you know, the shot would be really cool if we shot it from across the street, right? So he got this long lens, it's an ingenue lens, and it's a beautiful cine lens that it's very long, it's like about that long, and it's about like $10,000 or something like that. That's hard. And so he would do these long zooms and long rack focuses, and you know, as Allison was mentioning, it was, you know, very much done intentionally. It's kind of like a Robert Altman style, which is kind of documentary cinema verite kind of style in the way he shoots it. It was for saving money too, right? Because you can get multiple shots with like a longer zoom out from like a long shot close up, for instance. So there's those moments where you're, you know, the main character is called E14. I mean, the main character is the city itself, the street, right? East 14th Street. So we wanted to make sure that we included those moments where you kind of got to feel the take breathe, right? And feel the city breathe, so you can actually feel immersed in that environment. So, you know, there were some experimental things that we were doing in terms of how to cost effectively shoot this project. But once, like I said, once we got the grant from the city of Oakland, that kind of, it was all engines, you know, go, right? And so, you know, the production happened, of course, about 16 days. And they were very early days, and you know, I've been known to work my crews very hard, as Chadim, I'm sure will know, as a grip. And but everybody was very supportive of the production, from community members to folks seeing us shoot on the streets, to even the city itself, you know, waiving all the permit fees and stuff like that, because they wanted to make sure that this film was told and that we were supported. And you know, a lot of people will question whether independent films like this can actually succeed in the commercial market. And I mean, the film got like best film at the Latino Film Market in New York, toured a lot of major film festivals, got a lot of awards and play. And that got the attention of a distribution company, actually. So they were able to distribute this film, which is like on Tubi TV and Amazon, so I'm sharing it with folks. And then they distributed another feature that we did, actually, which was My People Are Rising. It's a documentary about the Black Panthers. So we also filmed in a similar way, where we that's what our production company does, is partners professionals in the media industry to mentor young people of color to diversify the film industry. And so it was a way for us to kind of make it a learning experience too. So anyway, that's a little bit about the production.
Thank you. We still have some time. I have more questions, but I want to let the audience, if they have any questions for you guys. Anybody have? Just raise your hand if you have a question. Yes.
So I thought this was a new film, but apparently it came out several years ago.
It was 2020 was when it officially came out, but it was during the pandemic. So, you know, it was hard to get a lot of film festivals, and, you know, a lot of, at that time, all the film festivals were virtual, right? And so it still got some support, but it wasn't really shown in a lot of theaters because of that. So we're happy that Clarion invited us to screen here. You know, it's amazing, you know, it takes these types of venues to support independent art. And so I thank all of you for coming too.
Could you talk real quick, any screenings you've done in Oakland, the response from the community, what that experience was like?
Yeah, we screened it at the Oakland International Film Festival. I believe where it premiered, I want to say. And we did a screening at the Holy Names University. Actually, it was great. It was packed, you know, with a lot of students. So a lot of, it was a great response, I would say, generally speaking. You know, everybody has their own interpretation of what Oakland is and how they view the city itself, but it's such a diverse city, right? So, you know, I would always take these opportunities on panels to defer to, you know, the co-producers of the project, Mario and Alandis, who lived those experiences and grew up there and had many family members who experienced those things. And also some of the young ladies that were in the production, you know, who were involved in the sex trade and like had to transform their lives. And there's brief cameos of them that actually, those were the stories that were based on those people's lives. And so we wanted to make sure that reality bled into each scene so that you could kind of understand that this is an imperative issue. And even now, today, when you go to International Boulevard, it doesn't look the same. It's been completely transformed. They have that BRT project that they were creating, which is like the rapid bus lane in the middle. And many people were afraid of that because of this development and modernization, like who's going to be left behind. And that was very much, you know, the stories of people who are being displaced in different ways, through healthcare or through housing or through education or immigration, right? So, you know, that was very much the inspiration and kind of the imperative nature, kind of telling the story. And just looking at it now, it's kind of like a historical artifact because you can't even recognize International Boulevard anymore. So,
I saw a hand. Yes.
So what is the name of the group that you would team up with for the youth to get involved in learning?
Yeah, that's the Hidden Gem Creative Studios. That's our training program. And we have a studio in North Oakland, Emory Village area, and that's like a few blocks away from the Pixar's campus. And so we have a 9-month intensive program where we train them in pre-production, production, and post-production, and then we place them in jobs in the film industry or try to get them into post-secondary education, because I teach at San Francisco State. I'm a professor at San Francisco State, and so you know, we try to get them into universities if they decide not to start their own business and become freelance professionals.
Yeah, there's a group called Liberated Lens. It's out of Oakland, and my son's done some work out there with them and done some editing. He's really good at that. So that's what I'm interested in.
Cool, yeah, the Hidden Gem Creative Studios.
Yeah, Hidden Gem Creative.
Is there another hand up?
I have a question.
Oh, yeah.
So, I know that you had mentioned that people were receptive in the neighborhood. Can you give me an example of maybe a comment that someone in the neighborhood told you about the film?
One of them was included in the film itself, actually. It was the homeless black man with the hat on, and he's staring at the camera. And I think you were there when that happened, right? And he's like, E14, you know, young brothers on the rise, you know, make your dreams come true. Like, you know, so we included that in it, you know. So there's these moments, right, that just were natural characters emerged out of the neighborhoods, right? You know, we spied on a couple of neighbors, you know.
Hey, that girl at the end, I mean, was she,
Oh, but no, the girl at the end was not an actual prostitute. She was an actor. Yeah. She was an actor.
I don't remember seeing her, right?
Hollywood shaming sex workers.
Yes, you know, we did try to partner with this sex working group, Missy, actually, but because they you know, that do personal transformation work and youth development, but because of confidentiality issues and things like that, we couldn't work with them. But the young lady actually who's in the film, who was one of my students, who you see at the very beginning in the hotel room, she actually experienced that, and she was very open, and she had been through Missy's program actually, and she's an artist now and an actor. So, you know, that was very intentional. You know, that's about the mode of production. It's a community mode of production, right? So I always say, you know, the way in which you make a film is just as important as what the film is about, right? So it was in there.
You said the look of International Boulevard has changed with, you know, physically. Is the lifestyle still as rough and difficult?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, like anything is changing. It's a gradual process, I would say. You know, there's an influx of families, you know, and I think that's changed. There's always been families there, but white families in particular, you're starting to see kind of settled there, right? And, you know, it's funny because I actually made a film called 23rd Union back in 2011. And it was about something similar in Seattle Central District, actually, and the gentrification of that neighborhood. And so, you know, from my studies of gentrification, you know, that it's a gradual process, right? Usually immigrants and gay couples in particular will come in, generally speaking, and remodel homes, and then those homes will be sold to more affluent white families who come in. So it's a gradual process. But I would say that Oakland is held on to its community and core culture more so than most cities that I've seen on the West Coast. You know, we talk about the Mission District, right? And we see that a lot here. So this project is very much a conversation starter around that. It's meant to be dialogical for that reason. And so would I say that life has changed? Yeah, I would say a little bit. It's definitely become more expensive in terms of finding housing, in particular because of all the new developments. But I think that there still is a very strong Black and Brown and Asian community, and they're very firmly rooted there.
I wonder if any of the stories were, you had any, like, where you draw this inspiration for showcasing those particular stories, and why were they highlighted? Like, did you have any like personal experiences with?
Yeah. I mean, like I mentioned, you know, I'm in the film. I hate that part.
Yeah.
Good job. I'm just like, oh my god, I cringe every time. No, but I mean, Augustine, I think, was probably the saddest story, right? That was a young man who came into my job and he was homeless and nobody could help him. And you know, you're not supposed to do this, but I would just like sleep on my couch, right? Because he had nowhere to sleep. And so that's when I found out that, you know, he'd been sexually abused and all of this had happened to him. And so I tried for like maybe a month or two to try to figure out his visa situation and take him and time off from work, you know, to go do that. And yeah, like I said, you know, he went 50-150, and so we never saw him again. So yeah, that was, you know, and then the young lady who was a sex worker, she was a young lady who was in one of my studios, was crying one day and was kind of telling me her story. It was in a music studio. I'm trying to think of other folks. Oh yeah, Chadu actually knows this one, which was Kayvon. Kayvon was a young man who was in our youth program who ended up killing someone, actually, and he was a very troubled, angry young man, a musician, very smart, but you know, he was acting out, and we tried to help him, you know, and as DeMario, who actually is in the field, like I tried to help him as much as I can. That actually was his job, was the front desk at our youth center, so he was playing himself, of course. And but yeah, we were all shocked when he had actually murdered a veteran in front of the VA clinic with his bare hands.
What?
Yeah. And so he went to jail. I think he's still in jail. I don't know if you want to say anything about Kayvon.
Yeah, I think the last time I saw Kayvon, because I was a part of that, me and Kayvon, we were part of a program at the youth center called Determination Black Men's Group, and we were actually trying to help them out. So for the members that come to Determination Black Men's Group, they get a stipend, and we would all the members, we actually wanted to help him out because he was struggling with money, so we all gave him each of our stipend. And then, of course, we find out days later that he used the money for something else instead of getting a job, and then finding out that he killed someone.
did the breaking the fourth wall and telling the story, were those all the real people?
No.
Okay, got it.
No, they
Yeah,
weren't, no.
I just didn't know if that was, I wanted to, yeah.
Yeah.
There were some of them, a
No,
couple
not-
of them were
A couple
new
of them
and,
were.
yeah.
Yeah, and then
Which ones were the real?
the young man who came out in front of the street when after Agustin gets robbed and was talking about it's really cold outside.
Yeah.
That was one of the young people that we worked with. We couldn't get Agustin himself because obviously he had left the country. And then the young lady who was a former sex worker. Nicole Lee was for the Asian community, that's seen on the park bench. She's an activist and an organizer who works in the Asian community in Oakland. So we wanted somebody who was kind of recognizable, who had kind of been, that is recognizable and that, kind of gave you some validity in terms of the activism that goes on there. But yeah, the character that Deborah played actually, I mean, we've all seen that person before, and I felt it was important, to mention that because I tried to strike up a conversation. I used to live by Lake Merritt, and there would be like older Asian people that would walk by, and I would see people acting really rude to them, right? Trying to close the garage. I'm like, why are you tripping? It's just some cans, like leave them alone. And I started asking a lot. I had a lot of Asian students, and so I was asking them, like, what's up with this? Like, what is this? Is this like a thing? And what do a lot of people do it to get exercise, right? And so I tried to strike up a conversation with actually an older couple that were arguing. One of them was smoking a cigarette, and it just inspired me, right? And I couldn't communicate with them at all, right? But I just saw their interaction, and you could tell, but they were kind of cute because they were kind of like walking along with each other, like. Their old family, so I don't know. It was funny,
awesome.
Yeah. But everybody sees that, and you kind of try to humanize people. And I think that even the young the king, right, the quote unquote villain of the film, I wouldn't even consider a villain, right? I mean, it's about showing a character arc and a transformation of somebody's, personal transformation, let's say, right? And so when you see that, it's very easy to just demonize and dehumanize people. And when you dehumanize people or you criminalize them, in particular, when you be an undocumented immigrant or you be a pimp or a sex worker or whatever it may be, it's easier to displace you when you criminalize somebody, right? And so I think that was very much a common thing that all the characters shared in the film. And I think we were trying to show that to the city of Oakland in particular so that they can be held accountable, right? So like what's going on. Yeah.
How did you handle the topic of politics? I mean, everyone kind of sees it differently, right? When with the sex workers and the real estate and like how did in crime and all that stuff.
It's funny because we did have a screening. I don't know if you were there, JB, or any of you were there. It was for the Oakland International. Were you there? And when we had a community panel, and there was, somebody who was just focused on the sex worker character, right? And she was just really being kind of rude to the young people who were producers of the film and who had a lived experience with family members. And she just dominated the whole conversation. And I looked at the festival director like, are you going to interject here? Because like and so I just brought up the point, when it came to politics, I said, look, everybody, this is a multinational, multicultural film, right? And if you're identifying with just one particular character storyline, that says more about you than it does the film itself, right? Because nobody ever talks about the Asian characters or the undocumented characters. They're always focused on the pimp and the prostitute, right? And it's like, okay, so what does that say about you as an audience member, right? And why aren't you focused on some of these other stories, right? You're supposed to feel the totality of the situation, right? And I think it's about dialogue, right? You don't want to shut anybody down. You want them to have their opinion and express themselves. That's you try to navigate it the best you can.
To finish up, thank you. You had something?
Never mind.
Sorry, go ahead.
Any questions for the actors?
I wanted to say, for the last thing, you're an educator. I imagine a lot of you have teaching experience, mentor experience, or helping other people learn. When it comes to the role of the arts in a young person's life, or the therapeutic quality of the arts, or being, a performer yourself, an artist yourself of some kind. If anybody wants to just give us some parting words about that, just, the power of creativity these days and how that helps things kind of keep moving forward.
How about I give it to JJ, since he went through our program, and he actually, he went through our intensive program and worked on this film, right? So I'll let him speak to that.
Well, personally for me, for working on E14, I thought it was important because, well, of course, to help Rafael with his first ever feature full-length film, but also, because just from my opinion, the way Oakland was depicted in movies was, well, let's just say I didn't like it. But then, of course, the last couple of years we had like a renaissance, and we saw films being based in Oakland, like Fruitvale Station, Sorry to Bother You, Blind Spotting. So yeah, just wanted to be part of that experience and wanted to help show what Oakland was really about, but also bring awareness about what was going on in Oakland, like Rafael said, the continuing problems with sex trafficking, with violence, with gentrification, and but also, I guess, in terms of parting words, well, I'll say it like this, because I also do a lot of after school teaching with kids. I'm also working with an organization called the People's Conservatory, where we provide art for kids in the Bay Area. And personally, I just wanted to let them know that anybody can be an artist. Yeah, anybody can be an artist, and be imaginative.
Thank you. If the money was there, would you do like a TV series spin-off from the film?
I mean, we could. I mean, it's funny.
Should we put that out there?
It would be good. Yeah, I mean, that's what Rafael Flores did with Blind Spotting, right? I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, I don't really do TV too much. I'm working on another short, actually getting into production at the beginning of this month, actually, and it's about the Chevron refinery and its impacts on the Latino community in Richmond. So it's called We Can't Breathe, and it's kind of like a social drama. It's fiction. This was my first narrative fiction film, right? I had done a docu-fiction film, it was about 45 minutes, and I had done 2 documentary features prior to this, right? So this was, an overwhelming undertaking, right? I didn't sleep very much, right? And I actually had 2 daughters that were born like right after the production, so it was just like extremely stressful. So whether I do another narrative feature, but it would take some time.
And not shoot it in 16 days.
Not shoot it in 16 days. Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. And then we also have a web series that's coming out called the Black and Brown Poet Series. You get an episode here in San Francisco and every major city in California, and it's kind of like a experimental docu series. But yeah, you can always just follow our work on greeneyemedia.com or on Vimeo. There's more content there for you. Some of it's free, and then, like I said, Tubi and Amazon. But yeah, I mean, if I had bigger budgets, right? I think that we would do as many narratives as we possibly can, but they're very expensive, right? I mean, we made this one on a shoestring. I mean, we made it for $56,000, right?
Wow.
Which is pretty good, right? I mean, that's pretty cost effective. But there's about social capital too, right? Like all the amazing relationships that you build with people and working on films and things like that.
They actually pay their actors.
So I would actually, I don't know, do you guys want to share anything that you guys are working on, or how's it?
I have a feature, I'm a lead in a feature film that's on Amazon, and all the things I'm really bad at doing this, but it's called Last Chance Charlene. And it's a dramedy about, anyway, Last Chance Charlene, if you wouldn't mind renting, it's only like $3.99. And I'm working on a feature in San Francisco with a San Francisco filmmaker called The Imaginary. This is my second feature with them, and living the dream. So bad at that.
work for the census, so
Oh.
anybody that has a census worker knocking on your door, please, please, please open it. It's very beneficial for your community and it helps your community a lot. So if you hear a census worker coming, please accept them.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming today and making this movie. Should we get a photo before everybody goes on stage?
Sure.
Can I get one last question for Chayden?
Oh, one more question?
Yes, what's the Oakland Black Panthers doing in 2023 in Oakland? Is it bad timing? Just
You
briefly.
said, what are the Black Panthers are doing in Oakland?
Today, yeah.
Well, I know that a couple of them are still out there. I know that they opened the Huey P. Newton Center in downtown Oakland. Dr. Frederica Newton, yeah, she opened the Huey P. Newton Center in Oakland. I know that Emory Douglas is still out here in SF, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that's so far all I know about which Black Panther is doing which. But yeah, well, I mean, maybe why don't you come to Oakland and find out?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We got one more movie coming up for this current film season next week. It's called My Culture. It's at 4 o'clock on Saturday, and we got other events. TheClarionSF.org is the website, right?
Yes.
And you have something? Yes.
Yeah. Just a little, if anyone's friend didn't see, like the Q&A didn't come in, we are streaming it on YouTube, the Clarion Performing Arts Center. We have a YouTube channel, it's all on there.
Oh, cool.
So this Q&A is gonna be there too.
Thank
All right.
you. Thanks for having us.
We'll see you again, everybody. Have a good night.